Okay, everybody, welcome to Helicopter Pilot Study Group number 15. We're talking today about runway incursions and then just kind of general discussion on any other topics we want to address. The Helicopter Pilot Study Group is designed for student pilots, current pilots, to talk about topics, work from the ACS, give the opportunity to present, and then discuss any topics relating to helicopter piloting. So today we're going to get started on runway incursion. We're in the middle of a discussion right now regarding hotspots at Hayward Airport. So I'd say we can continue this discussion for a little bit, and then we'll get into the more formal side. All right, so there's my introduction. Oh, sorry, I don't need that. So yeah, let's look at. I'm going to share my screen. This is always helpful too. If we're sharing screens, we can all see what's happening here. And if I pop this out, there we go. So you guys can see Hayward here.
I can see it.
Good. And we were talking about hotspot. We talked about a number of these hotspots, reasons why hotspots 1, 4, and 3 might be, these might be considered hotspots primarily in an incursion scenarios because I know why, but if anybody else wants to address why this might be a specific hotspot. Any thoughts here?
Are they like potential, let's say, very high traffic routes, like taxiing for aircraft for the 28 left? Because child is juggling with like incoming planes, like hold this position, wait for the incoming traffic to land, and make your departure patterns.
Yeah, yeah, just to be clear, you fly out of Hayward. This is why we're talking about it, so you get to see
Yep.
these things firsthand. So yeah, one thing that's pretty evident here is that a pilot has to hold short if they're going to approach 28 left or they have to hold short of 28 right unless they've been cleared. And I imagine that there's been instances when pilots have crossed 28 right without being cleared. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in the presentation here. But when those happen, those are considered what do they call that specifically? It's called a pilot deviation, right? I knew that. I was just struggling here. Yeah, it's called a pilot deviation if you make an incorrect move on a taxiway without clearance. But you were also saying that Zulu 1 here could be a potential hotspot because you have a lot of helicopters potentially landing on Zulu, and then Zulu 1 is a run-up area and something else. Anything else you want to add to that Zulu hotspot?
Zulu, so let's say Echo, sometimes the planes could be like taxiing down Zulu to go back to like signature aviation. That's where
Right.
I'm normally based.
Mm-hmm.
And this, or like, so they like, let's say it's a big plane, don't overfly it. Or let's say there's another company helicopter. So if you see like there's like a little, looks like a Tetris block that like pointing out like Zulu being Zulu,
Yeah.
like between Delta and Charlie.
Yeah. Right.
That could be like it's an old helipad, so potentially it's a non-movement area, so we fly have our own risk. But sometimes like this could be other students with instructors training.
Mm-hmm.
So Tal sometimes advise us like don't watch out for the old helipad, so don't overfly them because we are literally a mobile turbulence machine.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to zoom out here on this on Hayward to give you guys an example of the complexity of the airspace around here. Right? So this is a pretty unique place, right? And fortunately, we have the mobility in helicopters where we can navigate this a lot easier than airplanes. But I'm going to talk a little bit about how runway incursions in helicopters and airplanes can be an issue, and then we've got some heavy hitters here today, so I'm excited to hear what some of the other guys have to say. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump into the presentation. I'm going to switch my screen to my, there we go, and I'm just going to pop this out so I can do two things at once. Okay, so this is area of operation 2 class task C from the CFI ACS. This is one of the required presentations or one of the required tasks for the CFI ground portion of the check ride. So I think it's important to always identify. I think I like understanding the definitions of the terms that we're working with. And so to get in a good to get the best foundation for a runway incursion, what is the definition of a runway incursion? And one thing that I had misunderstood was it's not an incident, it's not an accident, and it's also not in the air. A runway incursion happens at the surface. There's a couple definitions. This one from the FAA seems to be the most direct, but basically a vehicle or a person on the protected area of a surface designated for the landing or takeoff of an aircraft, a place where they shouldn't be, right? And the way the FAA breaks this down, and they break it down into 4 different categories. It's likely that runway incursions happen all the time and aren't categorized or noted. However, I think we need to understand what if we ever are in a scenario where there is a runway incursion. What are the potential seriousness? How potentially serious is the incursion? So A being the most serious, where an event was narrowly avoided. And D being an incident that meets the definition, for example, the incorrect presence of a single vehicle or person or aircraft in the protected area of the landing and takeoff area. So you mentioned a really good point. One of the members now mentioned a really good point that say that there's a lawnmower in the section of the safety zone of the runway where they shouldn't be when they shouldn't be there. That could be considered a Category D runway incursion. Now, if they were to cross over the runway when they had no authorization to do that, that could potentially work its way up to a B or a C, right, or an A. Beyond A would be an actual incident. So it's an incursion that results in a collision. And obviously, those are what we're trying to avoid here. So the FAA takes a number of steps to mitigate runway incursions. There's a RIM program, a runway incursion management program, where they assess runway, they assess taxiways in the airport environment, and they actively make changes to those environments to help mitigate and stop runway incursions. And so we're going to talk about a little bit of what are the main categories and how what the FAA is doing to help mitigate those. So we obviously know the objective is to understand how runway incursions happen. I talked about that these are not actually categorized as accidents, but the seriousness of action taken to avoid an accident. And what's the importance of this? Why do we want to learn runway incursions? Obviously, it's a safety thing, but they average 1,700 a year, and that's noted. That's not incursions that haven't been classified. There's been 23 Category A's and B's in 2023, which are serious, and only 9 Category A's and B's in 2024. So there's a significant decline in the amount of runway incursions, primarily from this RIM program, which started in 2015, and the FAA's effort to try to keep these things. My local airport, KBJC, leads the nation in potentially significant events, PSEs or runway incursions, right? So we were the biggest in, I guess, I don't know what's the statistic, I guess, in the nation. That's one of my biggest airports. That's one of the airports I fly out of a lot. And at 725, they implemented significant new stricter air traffic control patterns and new air traffic control vernacular or terminology in certain areas, which significantly reduced the safety risk. So I don't have data yet since 2025, but I know just internally in the discussions that we've had, it's gone down significantly. So this is a situation at Burbank that happened. Southwest Airline narrowly crashed into a helicopter at Burbank Airport. And so my question here is, do we know where we're landing do we know where we're going after we're landing? Helicopters often land directly at the FBO or directly on the ramp. We don't necessarily take the taxiway or the runway. There's times when we do, certainly, but usually ATC will have us designate to a different location, sometimes directly to the ramp, right? So know where you are and where you're going. And I've recently been in some scenarios at some airports where it was a little complex and I wasn't exactly sure where I am, and I just asked for clarification so I can avoid any of these I certainly use my foreflight to try to get an idea of situational awareness, but there's times where I'm a little confused, but just ask ATC. But one thing to keep in mind is they make mistakes too. In this scenario, this was a ATC mistake, and it was primarily caused by expectation bias, and we'll talk about what that means here in a moment. So the number one cause of runway incursions are pilot deviations, right? So like we had talked about earlier, pilot coming up to the hold short line, and just blowing right through it and passing by a parallel runway or an adjacent runway on the way to another runway, and just misreading signs or misreading directions from ATC from ground. So ground might say hold short here, but they misunderstood the airport markings. So one thing that we have to focus on in the runway incursion world or understanding is airport markings. So I cut my far aim in half. I don't know. I've showed you guys this before, but I cut it in half. So I got the far
Oh my
and I got
God.
the aim. I know. It's so nice because it's easily packable. But two, the aim just sits basically in the corner and collects dust. But in section 2 or chapter 2, section 3, this is the breakdown of runway markings, and I would refer, frankly, to the aim for kind of immediate sort of understanding of airport markings, and then from here I like to dig a little bit deeper into the PHAC or some of the other books that break things down, and then getting into YouTube videos to try to understand from a kind of a movement or a different visual perspective. But this is a good initial review, I think, of a lot of airport markings. And then if you're unsure, it's always good to come back to the AIM for this information. But yeah, I've spent a little bit of time in here recently, and it's pretty fun, actually. It's fun reading. I mean, we love aviation, right? So it's just fun to kind of to learn this stuff. But airport markings obviously are critical. We need to understand those things. So another thing is, as a helicopter, we fly differently, and we have a lot. We're in a different category. We have a different what's the word I'm looking for when it comes to right-of-way rules, right? So we're basically last on the list with right-of-way rules. We're the most maneuverable, so we are pretty much are supposed to get out of the way of everybody. We don't have the luxury of just like we're coming in and everybody out of the way, right? That's generally not the case unless, of course, we declare emergencies. But some things that put us into specific is kind of a unique scenario for runway incursions are one, we're relatively slow. We're really low to the ground. Hot load scenarios are common. They certainly do happen. There can be fuel trucks, people running into our tail rotors. Tail rotor strikes are a common issue, not only with people, but with vehicles. And this is kind of a good example on the right here. This is from a Canadian company. They are really promoting understanding runway incursions on the helicopter side because it happens so frequently. And vehicles can certainly run into areas where we are working. And I've got a real world experience where we were hot loading on a quick turn from one designation to the other on a long ferry flight, and perfectly safe hot load. And the airport manager came up in his pickup truck and wanted to provide lighting for us with his vehicle. One, we were appreciative of that, but also we were a little uneasy, unsure of if he knew the complications or like the concern that we might have with a truck driving around the side of a hot loaded helicopter. And he was kind of repositioning himself to give us better lighting. And he was conscious enough to where his distance was not too terribly concerning, but enough to where it raised our eyebrows, right? And are you sure you know the tail rotor's back there? Are you sure you know we're hot loading? You know, just kind of not really an opportunity to talk to the airport manager, but just him wanting to be helpful, potentially gave us that area of concern. And that, I don't know if we would classify that as a runway incursion. It was all intentional, but it certainly could have led to something more dangerous. So we just have a unique scenario being helicopter pilots. We talked about hotspots. And as you can see, this example on the right, I think I pulled this from, I want to say this is O'Hare, but look at the complexity of the taxiways and the runway markings here. I mean, we have multiple letters for multiple taxiways. It can be, I imagine from a airplane's perspective, this can be extremely complicated. And from our perspective too, if they're asking us to land at Charlie Sierra or Bravo November or Bravo Sierra, we have to kind of really understand where the where in
Oh,
complications we are here. Go ahead.
so this is like, so for example, like this is taxiway Mike, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then there's like this taxiway, there's like intersection of Echo,
Yes.
is it below Mike, and then is it Sierra Delta?
It looks like that's Delta
Like
Sierra.
DS.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's a, so. Oh, that's a potential like what? Oh, Echo Delta. Oh, it's like, let's
Echo
say Tower
Delta.
says you're cleared for the Echo Delta. Like, do you mean Echo and Delta? Oh, I see the confusion.
Certainly. And so that's the location for this hotspot, right? I mean, that in itself, I think, is I don't know. Certainly for me, I would I would want to spend a little bit more time understanding this. And also one thing, you can watch traffic in ForeFlight on the ground, kind of moving, right? And I think it's just important, especially going to a place like this. What is it that we're seeing before we get in there, right? And I think that's a lot of the potential issues, right? So complex or confusing scenarios. Um, Best practices, right? Read back fully what you're hearing from ATC. Write it down. Make sure that we've cleared all around and especially above. Uh, I think Mike Triana, you mentioned this to me once. Was like clear left, clear right, clear above. And that's kind of
Absolutely.
stuck with me, and I do that a lot. I think about clear left, clear right, and then clear above. And I've got some scenarios, some examples here that I want to show you guys of that clear above in particular. Um,
Oh yeah.
if you're unsure, just ask, right? If you're unsure what Tower is saying, ask them to clarify. Not only that, if you're unsure in an untowered airport what somebody is doing on a taxiway, or maybe somebody is doing a stop and go on the runway, a Cessna's doing a stop and go on the runway, or they're doing a touch and go, or they're sitting in the on the ramp, or they're sitting in the run up area, and you're unsure and you're about to take off, talk with them. Ask them, hey, what are your intentions? Cessna 172 in the run up area. How long are you going to be there? We're going to take off parallel 334 to the north, right, or whatever. Um, Ask them what they're doing. How much time do you have? I think it's funny, like the Dumb and Dumber joke, where he's like, "Are you going number one or number two?" I just want to know how much time I have. You know, it's like just ask. Don't worry. Like I think, and in these scenarios, don't try to necessarily sound too aviation. You know, don't try to sound
Mhm.
just use standard phraseology. What did you
Like,
say, or what are your intentions? Can you say that again, right?
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And one of the things that I teach my new pilots is never accept bad ATC instructions,
Mm.
and bad instructions are ones that you don't understand. Not just for runway incursions, but when you're getting your clearance or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that we can add in with this when you talk about like doing a full readback is knowing the specific pieces of a clearance, whether it be a takeoff clearance or taxi instructions that you do need to be read back. And those specific items would be your runway assignments, any clearance to enter a specific runway, hold short instructions, or line up and wait instructions,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to get a lot of information from ATC in a call, especially at a busier airport like this,
Mm-hmm.
of like, hey, you got traffic here. Helicopter, whatever your number might be, you are cleared to line up and wait on runway, let's say 17 left there, or hold short of 17 left and contact tower.
Mm-hmm. So
So knowing
you're
knowing exactly what you need to read back, because if it's busy like that, they don't want you talking any more than you need to.
Right.
But you also need to know like exactly what's being expected of you, and especially from having performed operations in other countries where the language barrier might be there.
Yeah.
I tell my pilots like, hey, if you play video games, RPGs, uh, ATC, they're NPCs. They understand a few set of instructions and they're expecting a few pieces of information back from you. And if you listen to what they're saying to you and can pick out those key pieces of information, then you can speak back exactly what they're looking for. That smooths the whole thing over a lot easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good point. When you mentioned line up and wait, is that primarily because you guys have wheels, and they will have you like ground taxi to
Oh.
where you need to
Yeah.
go?
So yeah, we do ground taxi a lot
Mm-hmm.
as Army aircraft, since yes, Army typically has wheeled aircraft, but Cobras and Hueys,
Mm-hmm.
they're still operating off of skidded aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
but pretty typically. They're going to give us hold short instructions as opposed to line up and wait,
Yeah.
just because we can pick up to a hover and be taken off as we're making
Yeah.
our turnout onto the runway at the same time.
Which
So
is fun as hell.
it's a safer option for us to hold short as opposed to line up and wait.
Okay, so
It's
they'll have you hold short of the hold short line, and then they'll send you. Then they'll tell you you're clear to take off. So that keeps you. So that avoids you taking that kind of running turn to take off. Ideally, is that what you're saying? They will have you hold short until they give you clearance. Lost you, I think. I don't know.
yeah. So it's just so let's say because I'm a student at Haywood, so like and also I'm Part 61.
Yeah.
So like let's say like the wheel aircraft, they just treat you like SS now because it's easier workload, right? Just taxi on the runway, hold short, compared to like those skid aircraft. It's just a lot of workload just to hover and like set down, set up.
It sounds like it. I'm not sure who has the better. I mean, I would prefer skids because they generally don't want us kind of hovering around and causing rotor wash issues. You know, they want us out of there pretty much. So if you're on wheels, it sounds like they might make you line up and wait or hold short or something a little bit more.
Triana said he has computer issues, so he'll be back
Okay.
on. I
Cool.
think there was one experience like I was just like, we were like waiting in line. I'll just set it down and like, hey, helicopter 4040, you're cleared for takeoff from taxiway Zulu, close traffic pattern for spot Charlie. Like, oh come on.
Yeah, and then
then
you
you had to
just
rush
set
it.
down. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I know.
And
You're like, should I just hover?
it's-
But then you're burning a lot of power, and you're like, I don't know, man.
But yeah,
When in doubt, just set it down. I always,
Yeah.
I mean, and then ask. You can always wait, but all right. So one thing that I think a good redundancy here is always remind yourself and prove to yourself that you're taking off and landing on the correct runway. So that does happen to a lot of pilots where they land on the wrong runway heading, and that can be an expectation bias thing. That could be a fatigue thing. That could just be a lack of situational awareness, right? So there's scenarios in which landing on the runway are not they are common. So one thing that I was been taught is use two visual references for takeoff and landing. One is your compass heading. So check your compass heading, confirm that you're on the right runway, on the right heading to where you need to be, and then always visually check for markings, right? So especially in parallel runways where you have like 28 left, 28 right, make sure that you're on the correct one. Okay, so expectation bias. This is something that we all experience, but I like definitions. So a cognitive bias where a person's initial expectations about a situation, event, or person influence their perception and actions. And I think a good thing about this is A good example of this is just first impressions, right? You see somebody, they look a certain way, and you immediately create an expectation of what you'd expect them to be like. And they're not, and and they may not be that way. And in the airport environment, you may have heard a similar command or from tower, for example, over and over and over, but they change it up for you one day. And a good example would be to cross or hold short, cross a runway or hold short, or even in a run up area where you bypass the run up area, you don't need to run up, but they tell you, callback on run up's complete, and you just kind of head over to the hold short marking instead of the run up area. So there's areas where there's certainly expectation bias can contribute to runway incursions.
How about like airspaces? Like, let's say I'm departing is like for example, Hayward, we have a class Charlie airspace,
Yes.
but all aircraft have to make a left or right crosswind or left crosswind departure. And if, let's say I go to another airport, I'm used to that
Yeah.
departure. Like, you can go straight out. You know that? Oh, right, yeah.
Exactly.
Like, is it possible? Does that fall under the expectation? Like,
that falls absolutely under that category, and especially if you're going to a lot of untowered airports where they may have unique traffic patterns, right? Because of buildings or developments or other scenarios that would cause you, instead of doing normally left traffic, you would do right traffic, right? And so, that would be one of those scenarios too, just assuming you're going to go in and do something that you're not. Same with departures, assuming that they want you to go, turn right immediately, but you turn right immediately, but they want you to keep going straight, right? So you just get into that habit, right? Or that expectation of what you're supposed to do.
Also curious, like, let's say parallel runways. So like we take off from with the airport diagram on the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say tower gives you the takeoff from like taxiway alpha.
Yeah.
Do you use like the entire taxiway just to depart? Because like I don't know, let's say 30, like you can like cut into the 30 right, but then it's like I thought it's like, could that be considered incursion? Like I'm just literally taking off,
Just thinking
right turn, like,
yeah. So
or like do we use the entire taxiway just to like get clear and then make our departures?
right. So if I mean, especially taking off alpha here, which would not, I mean, so I fly out of here. This is BJC. Generally, they have us. They don't. The alphas are super busy, right? So all the FBOs, all the hangars, everything is over here. So generally, we will take off this way, off of 03.
03.
Sorry, you can't see my. Can you see my mouse? No.
No,
You can't see it now either. Okay. Yeah, I wonder why that is.
I can't.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Wait, I
try
think I have a
the,
solution for that.
Laser pointer function off of the PowerPoint there. Might get that to show up.
Oh, is there a laser pointer function on here?
I know there is on Microsoft PowerPoint, and sure Apple's got something similar.
Sure
Might
they
be
do.
like a
Can you see
I'd
that?
say right click, but I forgot that Mac doesn't have that.
We do. We do. We just don't.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just different. Let's see.
Showing my age here.
Right, that's funny. It's there. It's just all right. Let me see. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it might be
Let me-
under like presentation options or something like that.
Shouldn't laser be spelled with
or
an S, by the
presenter
way?
options. Yes.
It should. Yeah, it should be spelled with a Z, not an S. Okay.
Oh.
Well, in the upper left corner here, you can see 2-1 hotspot 1.
Oh, okay.
In the upper left corner, that's generally where we'll pick up and take off that way. Now, when we come back in, we're coming back in from this. I guess this would be heading. Let me see. And now I'm getting a little twisted up here. Yeah, probably around 2-4. So coming in on the southeast, if you're looking at this, say this is saying straight up north to the right is southeast. We would just cross over those runways, but we cross over midfield and then land over by that hotspot 1 or in that area over there. But yeah, so you asked a really good question. So if you're coming into land, and you're assuming that you're going to land at your on your taxiway or in your normal kind of spot, and you're coming into land, and there's an airplane taxiing above you or below you. We're going to address this in a second. Is that considered a runway incursion, or is that just a near midair, or what is that exactly? So we're going to address that here in a second. I have lost comms here. I don't think that necessarily applies. I just, light gun signals. I mean, everyone likes to joke how those nobody knows them, but but I think with cell phones and it's not as lost comms or light guns aren't as important.
But if you fly solo, it's a little bit stressful, right? Because you can't just reach your opponent like, hello.
Yes, especially in a helicopter. Yes, that's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
And then, so what are we supposed to do?
Oh, sorry.
I mean, and what are you supposed to do? I mean, let's say this: you have to have two-way radio communication in a Delta. But say you lose radio communication on your approach. You're going to squawk 7600, right? So that will immediately pop up on the screen that your transponder, your ADSB will show, or your transponder will show that you have in a mechanical issue, right? So they'll know that. If that's the case, are you going to fly by the tower and wait to see a green or a red or a flashing green or a flashing red signal? Or are you going to put the helicopter down in the safest spot that you can imagine, right?
Oh,
I think that's likely going to be the case. Now, lost comm, like light gun signals, do certainly make sense potentially for aircraft too, but it just seems like it's antiquated. I don't know. Everyone jokes about not knowing the light gun signals, and it seems like it's a pride thing that they're like, I don't know those. I'm never going to need those. And it's like, okay, all right. We know they exist, but I don't really want to get in the weeds on this. But anyway, let's talk about low visibility, especially taxiways at night. Again, and this is where I would kind of get back into the aim again, and talk a little bit about what runway markings look like. So, we need to know, what our colored markings are, and what that I think in the airport setting, the lighting system on the ground is so incredibly valuable, and understanding it is almost more effective, I think, than daytime taxiway or airport environment maneuvering, because it's just so visibly clear. I love flying at night, so I do spend a lot of time at night in the airport environment, and I think understanding these lighting is essential. But I don't want to go. Okay, I want to talk about a potential scenario. So I've kind of created this runway incursion presentation off just my experience and some of the knowledge, the resources and the knowledge from our references. But in my fixed wing study group, they always talk about. I want to get your guys' opinion here. They always talk about a specific scenario. So say you're picking up from one location, you're air taxiing or hover taxiing to another location, taking off. This is just really basic shit, but we're taking off at this airport and we're landing at this other airport. What are we looking for? What do we expect? What are the runway crossings? What are the high movement areas, the non-movement areas? And so what they say is, create a scenario where you're picking up at BJC, you're flying over to Greeley, for example. What are the airport environments at each location? What are the expectations, and what do you expect to see? And that would be a presentation on the fixed wing side about how a runway incursion works. But I think for helicopters in particular, there's so much more to consider. I'm not really sure about the scenario as being an effective teaching tool. What are your guys' thoughts? Or maybe it's just a combination of both. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay, so we want to know like the airport's elevation, the apparent altitudes.
Sure.
And then where is because some airports, like if you say Livermore, there's literally a pad alpha, but they don't know the little alpha on the mark if you go in person. It's not really well painted out.
Right.
But I guess I'm a student, so yeah, I'm not experienced as you guys, but I guess expect where look at the map, like where's the little helipad. Sometimes they'll just tell
Yeah.
us like, hey, go to the spot so we can deal with you later and then deal with the Cessnas.
Yeah, I think that's that's good insight. I mean, especially about the airport environment, right? When teaching runway incursion lesson, I think we're going to spend a lot of time in the airport markings, but also the airport environment that we're in, and understanding that environment and where we're going and what that environment looks like too. Where can we expect to kind of land? And I think we take that for granted in a lot of cross country flying. We do so many other elements in cross country flying that we get the basics of the airport where we're going, but especially if it's towered, I kind of take for granted that they're going to vector me in and tell me where to go. Now, I have certainly run into scenarios where I wish I would have known more about the airport, and so I've done recently, or since those mistakes, I've spent a lot more time on the the arrival airports markings. Or expectations, and I'd even called ahead, and I think that's another thing. It's worth discussing. Is you can certainly call ahead to ATC or to the tower of the airport you're going and say, hey, coming in here, I want self-serve. I've never been there before. What are you gonna ask me to do? Here's my tail number. Expect me in a couple hours, and that's I think appreciated. You don't want to linger there because they're freaking busy. But generally, they were like, hell yeah, cool, no problem. We'll keep an eye out for you. We're going to have you go here, here, and here, and then you're going to land over by there. And then you can kind of reference it on the chart or on the airport diagram and go from there. So let's talk a little bit about situational awareness and runway incursions. This one in particular I find pretty fascinating. And I think we should kind of determine, do we consider this a runway incursion or not? Let's watch.
Okay.
I'm gonna switch screens here. Change stream to, this is a Reddit video, so we'll watch it here. You guys can see that okay?
Glorious Reddit.
Yes, glorious Reddit.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh. I need to go to Reddit myself. Alright. Alright, you guys can see that all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Where'd that guy come from? So, pretty good auto. No problem. No questions. No qualms with that auto. But who was it right and who was wrong there, right? And oh God, that's funny when that happens.
To infinity and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. Love that.
This was an unpowered airport, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Oh fuck. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that kind of complicates it. So without there being any control over that, I mean, really, that's going to kind of come down to not pilot's discretion, but the pilot's operating over CTEF or that Unicom frequency to deconflict from one another if that's not a towered airport. So I would say that if the helicopter pilots had made their proper call outs saying that like we were doing an auto rotation to whatever runway that they were landing on, then I would probably place the blame on the Cessna there for setting up on the runway that they were actively using.
Right. Yeah. And so that is not uncommon, right? To be using a runway that that we don't necessarily need to use as helicopter pilots, right?
We can use a taxiway.
Right. And there's a lot of grass there, right? There's a taxiway just to the right of it. But we're not getting necessarily the whole picture. So maybe on that Alpha taxi or that parallel taxiway, maybe the Cessna was over there, right? Also, I think another thing to consider here is if this is a Gulf airport, radios aren't required, right? And how many times have you guys been in airspace?
That'd be scary. Yeah, that's scary.
How many times have you guys been in airspace where there's airplane? You're like, where the fuck did he come from? No ADSB, right? No radio.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this Cessna probably has a radio, and the Robinson probably has a radio.
Yep.
But this is, the FAA talks a lot about see and avoid, especially when we're in flight. And these guys are in flight,
Hmm.
right? And so this is, I think, this would be more of a, in my opinion, a see and avoid. But it kind of
Hmm.
borders on that runway incursion because this Cessna was clearly on the ground when this auto rotation was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And thinking too that like if they're practicing for an auto rotation, thinking of your steady state factors that you're looking to keep constant in that auto rotation, rotor within limits, airspeed within limits, aircraft's in trim, that you've got a safe place to land
Yeah.
below you. I mean, you clearly those guys weren't looking below them as they were trying to
Yeah.
conduct this auto because they would have seen that aircraft there.
Right.
Or if I was the Cessna about to take off, like, oh, look up, like someone could be above. It's well,
Yeah.
from a state. I don't know. I'm not very experienced, but maybe we should take like the taxiway in case if it was like the main runway was busy. But yeah, that's a little bit scary.
I'm
That's
in
good. Like you don't.
agreement. I mean, I will take auto rotations to the runway in only in environments when I know that I'm one or maybe there's only one other airplane out there and I know exactly where
Yeah.
they are. If I'm in a busy training environment, I will always take the parallel taxiway or I will take the grass if that's an opportunity to.
Hmm.
Um,
And honestly, the grasses, the sod is probably the safer place than that, because those fixed wing aircraft aren't going to be operating there. And
they're
if you
not
don't need to do a full down auto, just bring it to a hover.
right.
I'm not exactly sure how you guys practice them, but
Yeah, just like that.
yeah, even if you're doing a touchdown auto, if that grass is smooth and flat enough, a lot easier on the skids too.
A lot easier on the skids.
Yeah, my school, we don't. I don't know. We haven't done auto. We don't do autos on the grass. Well,
Mhm.
also for safety reasons, because our hot exhaust will cause us to catch
Mhm.
fire,
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah, a dynamic rollover certainly can be an issue, but
Yeah.
runway's probably like the safest place environment probably to do an auto rotation to if there was no traffic, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Right.
that's the concern. So, all right, here we have another one, and this one,
Okay.
I really like this video because runway incursions are especially the airport environment with helicopters, as there's been an increase in discussion regarding rotor wash, and especially in Triana's helicopter that basically causes hurricane force winds. You guys can blow over a GA aircraft with,
Yeah.
just in passing, right? And I think we're going to see a good.
Yeah.
You do, and it's rotor wash is becoming an increasingly popular topic in the environment, in the airdrome environment, just because of the amount of because of how dangerous it really is. So let's look at an example of this. I'm gonna go ahead and switch. I think I can embed these, so I'm gonna do that next time.
Yeah, I think there was a technician working on the Cessna, and the cowling flew off, and he kind of got a little bit angry at my instructor. But she said that, okay, do you guys secure it? No. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Who do you put the blame back on? But in our Robinsons, we certainly do have a rotor wash enough to be dangerous. But when we get into these
Yeah.
bigger helicopters, it's gonna be it's a different animal, that's for sure. That's not better. That's just what we're gonna do. So, okay, I'm gonna turn the volume down on this a little bit because it. I don't know. I don't think you should ever turn the volume down on the Huey, but we're going to because I think it's the most beautiful
Ah,
sign
I
in the
really want
world.
to fly a Huey.
I know.
Well,
Mhm.
we'll take our
Most beautiful
time.
sign in the world, but we're gonna watch this. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go. Now, just keep in mind the amount of time from when this Huey passed through and this airplane comes into land. Look at that.
Oh,
That was almost 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Sad part of
Whoa.
this is that that pilot died.
no.
So we were at 11 seconds. 2 seconds later, that pilot came in and got caught in that rotor wash. So, not necessarily a runway incursion, but we're talking about the airport environment, right? And how you guys want to. You guys skateboarders by chance? All right, let's get out of there. All right, we're gonna switch to.
Wait, so the Heat just made his landing, and the Cessna's falling behind it, so he got caught.
Yes.
Oh.
In the rotor wash, 20 some seconds after he had already passed that spot, the Cessna came in. Triana, I'm glad you're here because this is something that I've really been thinking about a lot recently. And actually, what do they teach you guys? What do you guys talk about, especially on the intense rotor wash that you guys have on Blackhawk?
Yeah, it's always a significant issue whenever we're operating around GA airports, which kind of goes back to earlier thing we were talking about, why we ground taxi everywhere. So typically, whenever we go into in and out of a civil aviation airport, it's landing to the runway, then departing off of the taxiway, and ground taxiing pretty much everywhere that we go. At our own airfields, we will hover or air taxi as appropriate there. But man, especially like when we're getting closer to the ramp, it is wheels down and keep that thing as flat pitch as possible, because yeah, quite plainly we do screw things up. We get a little too close to it, and man, it doesn't take much.
Yeah. I mean, you can blow a Cessna over pretty easily, I imagine.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think there was a video of a Blackhawk coming to land, and someone forgot to tie down the Cessna. It got blown away.
Away. Do they measure the amount of force in the downwash, the miles per hour of your vortices or your downwash is at 100 some miles an hour, 120, 30? Do you guys know? Do you have a statistic for that?
No, I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head.
Okay. I did listen to a podcast, and one of the guys was talking about how intense that is, and it's hurricane force winds plus, right? So
yeah,
I
believe it.
Yeah.
Man, especially you start talking about like Chinooks. Good Lord, those are even more significant in comparison. At a hover, when we're doing like sling load operations or something like that, you can easily stand underneath a Blackhawk and have no issue there. Especially if we're on the ground at flat pitch, it'll be a little gusty, but nothing too bad. But man, Chinooks are the absolute worst for that. They are the true hurricane force winds when it comes to that, and they wreck things so much more, man. You couldn't even really compare us. I hate to say.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean those rotor blades are like 10 sheets of plywood stacked end on end, right? I mean they're like 4 feet wide or something ridiculous. I mean they're like 3 feet or something. I don't know. They're massive though. But yeah, that's certainly something to consider.
Yeah, I mean our rotor disc itself is 53.8 inches across, or sorry, 53 feet 8 inches across. And when you consider that a Chinook is like about 260-foot rotor discs, all dedicated to lift, where we've got like about I think it's only 20% that our tail rotor contributes to it, to our overall lift, and that all in all, we're capable and typically picking up off the ground at somewhere around 18,000 pounds. So you go into basic physics there, equal and opposite reactions. Whatever the amount of force it is that takes to generate enough lift to not only cause a 18,000 pound object to hover, but also get it to climb into the air. Yeah. Man, that's the force of winds that are pushing out and underneath from you there.
It's substantial.
I'm not a huge math guy, but I know that there's some people that could do that math and figure out exactly what the amount of force of wind it would to take that and do that.
We'll let them do the calculations and we'll do the flying.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Much better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So beyond that, this was an FAA.
Oh, I think you zoomed in a little. Oh yeah.
Yeah, a little too much. Okay, let's pull back out. The FAA. Let's see. This is different. This is different. Yeah, the RIM program, and they are changing airport taxiways to kind of be more efficient. And this is kind of some of the examples of. Um, I'm not sure. I was just watching this video, so I'm not 100% sure what this graph shows. But oh, this is the amount of runway incursions from 2007 to 2020. And that is pilot deviations or vehicle and pedestrian deviations. And this is a combination of both. And these are the areas at the airports where they're seeing it the most. And the short taxi distance from ramp to apron, like we saw in the Hayward hotspots, is a perfect example of where you're going to see this the most, right? So coming up to a taxiway and you have to cross right from taxiway right to runway, and there's a short distance between the apron and the runway. So they broke all this down, and they're actively making these changes. And since they've made those changes, statistics have shown that it not only in airport environment changes to taxiways and traffic pattern, ground pattern direction, but also to ATC clearance or ATC instructions. Simplifying instructions has helped tremendously too. So it's a combination. It's a significant effort by the FAA now to help kind of manage these runway incursions and keep them from happening. Just try to mitigate them best they can. So it's fun to see. I would say in my in on the FAA website, if you just type in on YouTube, in fact, FAA runway or just runway incursion avoidance, there's a couple videos from the FAA that pop up. They're not terribly long, but they're really helpful at understanding one, what are the hot spots, what are the things that are causing them, and what is the FAA doing to address them. So that's my presentation on runway incursion avoidance.
Nice. To go back to an earlier what we were talking about before my computer so rudely interrupted us. As far as like line up and wait instructions, we're generally advised as Army aviators not to accept those sorts of clearance, just because of what I was explaining shortly before I got cut off, of that we can easily hold short of an active runway, call tower, immediately get our takeoff clearance. And before even getting onto the runway, we're already climbing, turning, and getting up to our sort of climb out profile before we've even fully gotten onto the runway there. And that kind of adds an extra safety measure for us. So that way we're not sitting waiting on the runway and maybe have a Cessna land in front of us or line up behind us and think that they're going to take off for whatever reason, them not seeing us. And degraded visual environments, especially like nighttime flying, that's something where if you're, say, midfield and you've got a Cessna that lined up at the very end of the runway, could make things or complicate things even more.
Classic example of a runway incursion there, right? Where a lot of even Cessnas on long airfields don't need nearly the whole thing. They can take off in an eighth of it or a sixth of it or a quarter of it, right? And especially us, we're doing it. So we're doing it as somewhat of a courtesy, I suppose, by staying on the runway. Is that why does the Army pretty much have you land on the runway and then taxi to the ramp? Or can you land at the ramp or a helispot near the ramp? Or is it specifically they want you to land on the runway? I imagine that there's not a hard and fast rule with that.
No, there isn't. General procedures will typically depart and take off from runways, just because we are heavier aircraft. We do try to mitigate those wingtip vortices, the downwash and everything like that. So we try to keep the heavy lifting to those call them heavy lift areas.
Right.
But if I've definitely taken off directly from the ramp at a general aviation airport before, and it's always kind of like a little bit of a treat too.
Yeah.
The controller gives you a hey, you're clear to take off, present position at pilot's discretion, and then you read that off, and man, you just yank the collective and go. It's great when we get to do it, but it's few and far between because we try not to incur any additional bills for the government that we don't have to.
Right, certainly, yeah, like blowing over general aviation airplanes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious. Anything else anybody wants to add? Anybody want to talk on any other topic or comment more on runway incursions?
So,
Hey, John, everyone.
hello.
I thought that was an awesome presentation. It's really, really cool.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit from my own experience of what you were talking about, looking at that destination airport and not just stopping by, I see what it is, I see what the runways are, that's enough. Because I've been in that same situation that you're talking about. You're arriving there and they tell you something different. They're, hey, go to this FBO directly. And you're like, oh, where is that? Which taxiways is that? And you don't want to be in that spot in which I have been, right? And we learn from these things. I'm definitely going to tell my student to, keep an extra eye on where you're going, what you're doing, and not being afraid of calling the people there and asking those questions. Just know more than just the runways as a helicopter. You are landing anywhere, so they might direct you anywhere. Yeah, that was cool.
100%. I'll add on to that by like a lot of the flying that we do with as military aviators, especially for flying into a military controlled airport. Even if it is something like an Army airport, we still have to more often than not put in a PPR or a prior permission request if we're planning to fly cross country and say like fly from Fort Hood and shut down at Fort or something along those lines. So for us, and might take this for granted, we do a lot of pre-mission planning, like from the time that we get started, like, hey, here's our departure that we're going to take, even if we're flying VFR, are there any obstacle departure procedures here that we need to be aware of? And what does the arrival airport look like? Now, again, one thing that I think we take for granted is that we're a two-pilot cockpit everywhere we go. And there's definitely been plenty of times on a cross-country trip where it's been like, you know what, let me take a look at that airport diagram again. Where is that FBO? What taxiway are they most likely going to assign us to? And what are our post-landing taxi instructions going to be like? With you guys flying around in Robbie's, especially if you're doing like small contract work, you probably don't have that co-pilot to work with, and I don't think you guys have the flight director or force trim that we do to be able to just grab your iPad real quick and take a look.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's a safety notice.
Yeah, I don't have much of those things.
And that's a safety notice in the Robinson manual, that you have pilot distraction, especially with the advent of iPhones or cell phones and iPads. And I've made this mistake too. I'm coming in on a landing when I've done, 1,000 normal approaches or something, right? And so I just come in, I'm doing a normal approach, and I take my hand off the collective, and I'm like zooming in on my fucking iPad to look for ramp instructions and shit. I'm like, dude, I need to be focusing on landing. And it's like, snap out of it, let's go. Focus on what you're doing. And then, again, the benefit of a helicopter is we can take it to the runway and we can just scoot the fuck over to the right or the left generally, and we can sit down and relax for a second. And like, not always the case, but we have that advantage. And I think I especially get into that mindset too, where I'm like, oh, got to do what the airplanes are doing. And I think that's just primarily the training environment, like follow the taxi line, hold short at there, pick up here, taxi, it's just like, that's not always real life for helicopters. Helicopters have a lot, and when I see helicopters in the working environment, they're just like boom, right to the ramp, right to their hangar, whatever, right? So, and that's probably safer in a lot of cases. Here, I pulled up Fort Hood. Can you guys see it?
I'm not sure. Maybe ATC might be biased towards helicopters because they
Yeah.
don't like us. Because they're like,
Yeah.
what he's doing is like, hey, no, I did not clear. Like,
Right.
What do you mean? We
Right.
can
I
just
think-
land the hell we want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think
We're
we're the
bothered.
annoying little like buzzard that's just in their ear, but
Yeah, Livermore doesn't like me. I think I kind of fucked because I kind of fucked up the radio, but also like they didn't ask me like, oh, they just keep saying because it
they're a
was
student.
307 Sierra Hotel. They keep saying 3072 Hotel. Like, what the fuck? It's like, is it another helicopter transitioning? I was like, oh fuck, that's me. And
That's
then,
funny.
well,
That's funny, and
Yeah.
that's
For the amount of times that I've flown into Austin, I don't think I've ever landed at the runway. I don't think I've ever done a full traffic pattern, and I think they've always given us an early crosswind or like the ability to make a midfield transition or something like that. Pretty much just anything that they can do to get us out of their airspace and away from the runway as quickly as possible.
there was one.
yeah.
I was doing another time. I was doing solo flight to Livermore. They asked me, "Are you familiar with the patterns?" Yes, I am.
Mhm.
It's like okay. It's like I did. Yeah, I did. Fucked up our radio call that the first time I went there solos, and second time like went perfectly. I just like, "Are you familiar with the patterns?" Like, yes.
and that was it.
Is that normal or just they just like make sure I'm not annoying?
I don't think that's normal.
No, if they're not familiar with your registration, as in like you're not based out of there, they might ask you that just
Okay.
so they can smooth over the information that they give you. Because like especially if you're going to land or something like that,
Oh,
they may give you progressive taxi instructions as opposed to saying like, hey, just taxi to.
We don't.
North-
Yeah, we don't
like
taxi.
that.
There's like little pad alpha there, but it gets a little bit confusing because if you look at the what's it called, the street view or like the non-aviation shots,
Yeah.
the pad alpha is very like let's just say, oh, was it? It was an aerial map. I forgot.
There we go.
Like the pad alpha is like that's a compass, and the pad alpha is kind of hard. Oh, no, to the left.
To the left. Oh, Pad Alpha is this
Left,
way.
left. Yeah, and yeah, we don't land at the runways when I train there.
Yeah.
Down. I think it's down. Yeah,
Oh, Pad Alpha. Right.
it's like
here.
the compass,
Yeah.
and do you see the pad alpha? It's very hard to see.
Yes,
It's like
it
I
is.
they should have painted the, I don't know, pink.
Yeah, that'd have been nice if that was bigger.
Yeah, it's like I landed. Oh, first time I went there from solo, I landed on the company. Got really mad. Like, oh fuck, yeah. Like,
So
Oh,
what?
that's the
yeah,
fuck
like I think they're just ATC
oh my god, man.
traffic controllers can be ornery, and I think
Yeah.
the ones that aren't are the
I
best
did miss
ones.
the calls. I got confused with the tail read. I was like, huh? I'm like,
Yeah,
so
that's understandable. You're a student.
that's a
That
learning
happens-
experience.
That happens all the time. That
Yeah.
happens all the time. So something interesting about Long Beach.
Mhm.
I've been flying out of here. Was flying out of here a couple times recently, and generally helicopters are over here in this on this ramp area here. I think here's one of them. There's one of the school's helicopters right there. There's a little 22, right? So there's all these helipads. And what they want you to do is they want you to pick up and they have you cross over the compass. And then from here you make the call and they allow you to cross. What is this? Was that 30? Yeah, 30 and what is it? 18 or whatever, or 12. So they let you cross over here, but then once you're out over the golf course, to the east here, and then you come back over the southwest gate, and they've created these helipads here.
Oh, that's nice of them.
It's super nice. So we can have the number 3, helipad 3 is great for run-on landings. You can take autos right to it. Helipad 2 and 4, perfectly fine. Those 2 little dots in the lower right and the upper left. So who made those was Tim Tucker, from the guy who makes the Geronimo app and the guy who worked with Robinson for so long. He was a big advocate for helicopter training here at this airport in particular. And that's why these helipads exist. And so here's actually a helicopter coming in for a landing on 3. That's kind of cool shot. So anyway, one thing I would say is you brought up a really good point. Using the aerial map instead of the aeronautical map at times is really advantageous. because we know signature is potentially over here, right? But we don't know what necessarily this is, right? And they say avoid the southwest terminal and land east by the Atlantic aviation ramp. And you're like, okay, what does that mean exactly, right? So you don't. It's popping out of here and using this is super helpful. And I'll often turn that on and look at the satellite imagery. It just, I think to me, it helps really put things into perspective sometimes. You're up above, so you're seeing similar to what the satellite view is. I think sometimes the aeronautical chart and the airport diagram, it just doesn't necessarily have enough information, visual information for me to be able to reference to make a good decision when I'm close to the ground or getting close to the ground. So I that's my thought. Do you guys have any thoughts on the airport diagram and kind of navigating around airspace or airport sometimes?
Does help to like say which runway is it, like where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a clean version, but if you're like, hey, by the way, just don't come to the southwest, like, okay, where is it?
Right.
We in
But
Army
also-
Aviation, we try to break things down Barney style as best as we can, even to the point that if we're doing like long distance cross countries into airports that are unfamiliar with us, we'll grab the satellite imagery and put in like the runway, the airport environment, and like have it even canted at an angle that's very similar to what we'll be approaching it from.
Right.
So that way we know exactly like, hey, we're landing to the runway and not mistaking it for a taxiway, or if there's a left and a right, like knowing exactly what sort of landmarks that we're going to have around there, whether there's typically a parking lot of cars off to the right-hand side of this taxiway, or if there's a retention pond between taxiway Alpha and runway 36 left or something like that, to give us visual references and make sure that in the absence of further instructions that we already have a mental picture of where we're headed to. And man, those pictures are in full color, man. We don't think in black and white, you know? And the diagrams are informational. Sure, it's going to make things a little bit cleaner for identifying like the letters and the numbers and everything. But after you've taken a look at that, like, I fully agree with taking a look at the satellite imagery to even better correlate what you can expect to look at upon landing.
So a lot of that is kind of the pre-flight planning too, you know, getting, like you said, getting a better visual of the airport where you're going. And again, calling ahead to the FBO or to the tower is not, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You give them a shout ahead of time and they're like, yeah, we generally put you over by Summit Aviation, or we put you over by the ATP flight school. There's a couple helipads over there, and we had go ahead.
Oh, Signature Aviation. I didn't know that there.
ATP? Yeah, they're
no, Signature. Signature Aviation.
Yeah, they're FBOs all over the country. I mean, there's probably 400 signatures, but maybe. But
I think I just don't. Sometimes I don't like it because when there's a lot of parked aircraft, like so much money just to park my helicopter.
I know. I know.
That's
That's true.
I was like, God tempted. Those times I was just tempted to land in the middle of the middle of the parking. Like, can you guys just tow it, please? I just don't want to do this.
That's not an uncommon feeling. You're like, that just set it down and get out of here. You know, like I get it.
Yeah, can you just tow it? I don't want to do this whole pedal shit because this is so much.
For real. It gets easier. It gets easier. That's for sure.
Yeah. There are times when I just pre-flight check, like, oh thank God, there's nothing there. I can just get out and get in.
I know it. That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
It's nice when you're in those. I mean, you're really in a busy airspace, though. He's in Hayward, which is just fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, SFO is also part of like, is it on their far aims like subs? Was it Appendix D? Even with student endorsement, they won't let you go in.
They won't even let you in. Yeah, I believe it. No, I believe it.
Oh wow.
What's your airport identifier again?
Kilo Hotel. Was it Whiskey Delta?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started saying the phonetics when I at an airport one time, and the lady in the attendant thought I was a military. I was like, no, I'm just a student pilot.
Just a student pilot. Not just. You are a student pilot, man. It's a cool skill. Oh, this is maps anyway.
Hayward. Okay, yeah. Looking at that on there we go, Sky Vector.
I still need to do my cross country requirements, so I'm in the process of working on that.
Nice.
The route said I chose the route. The instructor said, yeah, it's fine, it's good. You just had to pick out the little waypoints on the way there because it's a little bit long ones are like you get the compass, but just pick out little waypoints to make it easier, life easier.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's a big thing. A part of that we do as Army aviators, a part of pre-mission planning. If we're going on a longer route or even a tactical route, we'll develop what we call a time distance heading card, letting us know like, hey, as I'm taking off from this point, reaching to this ACP air control point, which is typically an easily identifiable landmark, whether that be a road intersection or like a river bridge crossing over a river, something along those lines. It lets you know and allows you to manage that without a GPS, without a radio, so an absence of communications or anything like that, and kind of takes you almost like if you were preparing for an IFR flight, an instrument flight, knowing that like, hey, I'm going to hit this nav aid or this intersection, then I'm going to turn this way and fly like that. It brings those same practices back to VFR flying. And as I've told you before, John, I like to be a lazy pilot, so that means I got to be a diligent planner. Mm-hmm. I got to front load all of that mission work, so that way when I jump in the cockpit, all I got to do is just follow the instructions that I've already laid out for myself. And having a good flight route planned out with easy to identify landmarks is a big part of that.
It's cool to hear, Michael, that you guys do that in the real world, because in our part of the ACS for private and commercial is to be able to navigate by pilotage and dead reckoning. And you have to be able to do exactly what you're talking about. And so the fact that we learned that skill and you guys actually still utilize that skill, because I know in the private or in the commercial world, that skill is essentially not practiced. But I like the mentality of, hey, well, let's put everything together in advance. So should something go wrong, we can continue to be that lazy pilot, for lack of a better word, and not have to add these extra elements of stress, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What turns into what would have been an emergency procedure turns into a mild inconvenience. It's like, man, I was really looking forward to just being able to couple up or not have to worry about my flight and just follow the magenta line. But now I got to look for these landmarks so that way I know that I'm approaching my airfield from the right direction. But yeah, pilotage and dead reckoning is one of the biggest things that we harp on our pilots. And part of that's because we expect to operate in a GPS denied or degraded environment at some point in time. Yeah. So even if we do have apps loaded into our aircraft, we expect that our position is either going to be completely wrong or inaccurate to some degree. And if we have a route that has those easily identifiable landmarks on there, we can actually update our position and get us back on course for at least a little while. And just kind of keep doing that with every identifiable air control point along the way to kind of give us a backup to our GPS route there, flying off of inertial nav, that is.
Yeah, fascinating. And all while getting shot at.
Yeah. Well, try not
to get shot at.
Yeah, I think that's an episode. Yeah, the flight plan's like, yeah, we'll fly this route. Well, but the danger is like, will I get shot? Probably, but let's just try to make it safe as possible.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. So this actually is kind of leading to a logical discussion. Maybe next study group we can talk about navigation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
Yeah.
we can
And-
talk about what what the book says, what real life is, and a
Mhm.
little bit of in between. How does that sound?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds
I
good.
can I can bring over one of
Yeah.
my past mission packets.
That'd be awesome.
See if I can bring over some of the routes that we would use and kind of talk through some of those methodologies to sort of add to the conversation.
Yeah, bring over some top secret nav routes for the military. We really want to see that.
Yeah.
So when I planned for my long distance flight cross country as a student pilot, it's
Yep.
like
Yep.
because I think if you like for like I'm flying to I have to fly from Hayward to Modesto.
Mm-hmm.
So
Just
I did write
the north or the south here. I'm actually looking at
California west.
west.
Because what I do is fly from Hayward,
Yeah.
request transition. So like stay north of like Highway 580 in case of like engine failure. At least I have options to land and not some person's house.
Got it.
And I think it's a hard part. Is like it's this visual identifiers. Like let's say you fly through Hayward, you fly through Livermore. Like okay, and I want to fly through Altamont Pass because, well, I don't want. Well, it's the easier pathway instead of like trying to navigate the mountains and also the restricted airspace. It's just like, where do I find Altamont's like pass? Like, looks like a valley, but what the hell does it look like? So
Interesting.
my instructor just told me that say, hey, possibly use like I think that's like somewhere like there's the big Jesus cross sign or like there's a dirt track.
Right.
Like,
And
use
so you're
ground-
looking for those indicators. What are they? So there's a couple things in the in for flight that help, right? So these flags are waypoints, visual waypoints, right? So they're there.
I was going to bring that up.
Yep, they're there for intentionally for you to be able to reference those. So you're gonna
Okay.
you are flying in a really unique environment. This is gonna make you an outstanding pilot,
Oh yeah.
because you're
It's-
flying
yeah.
in some pretty cool space. But
Yeah.
yeah, so what
can
I
I
would
show you
say,
my-
an
Can I show you my
advantage-
flight plan? I'll just
Oh,
screen
yeah.
share.
Yeah,
I think
here
it'd be
I'll stop
easier.
screen sharing then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me
How
see.
do I-
Stop
alright,
streaming.
so-
There you go.
Wait,
Watch
how do
stream.
how do I
we
where's the okay, I'm used to my phone. Oh my
I
god.
know the app the browser app is not nearly as effective.
Yeah.
But
So what is it? How do I add route again? Sorry.
no, you're good. Just
Okay.
double click
So
it.
if we fly
Right.
fly through Hayward
Mm-hmm.
and then Dublin is like the visual checkpoint to like call Livermore
Mm-hmm.
and then stay north of Livermore Airport because keep in mind that plane's coming on the 25 left and the 25 left
Mm-hmm.
and the 07, so like watch out for them. And then I fly to the Altamont Pass.
Smart. Right on the highway.
then-
Perfect.
Yeah, and then fly to say northeast of Tracy, and then fly to New Jerusalem and Modesto.
Yeah.
Because on my original flight plan, I did not account for New Jerusalem.
No,
It's
but
just a
that's,
big long like
but that's a great
stretch.
waypoint.
Like
An airport is an awesome reference.
Absolutely.
What's not as awesome
I would
is a
familiarize yourself with the traffic pattern there at New Jerusalem if you're going to use it.
no one uses
as
it.
a-
Yeah, no one uses it.
Yeah. I would
Is it-
would still be cognizant of
Mhm.
the landing and takeoff direction,
Mhm.
just to give you an idea as to like if there happens to be any traffic in the area, like hey, I know it's going to be coming out of the right hand side of the aircraft or something along those lines. So I would give some distance from it or cross directly midfield, because you typically don't have aircraft at altitude in the middle of it unless you happen to be a helicopter.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Cross
Okay.
midfield. I would cross midfield for sure.
Cross
And
midfield.
also know the CTAF for the surrounding airports and let them know when you're coming
yeah,
through.
Tracy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
usually train at Tracy for untowered.
Yeah.
When I did it, I just tapped into Tracy's airport and then like, oh hey, by the way, I'm transitioning.
Perfect. Yep.
I try to avoid the CA7 because
Yep.
like I think it's what's it called, a parachute jump area. So like
Yep.
just avoid it, just
Yep.
less stress.
Good call.
And
Another
make a
good
straight
indicator
line.
there's the river, right? You know,
Yeah, the Mendy.
across midfield, you're going to see the river. You can see maybe the junction of the river there. That Y is a
Yeah.
good indicator.
We also my instructor said also use the farms.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There's
I
a
need
lot of them.
development. But
Yeah.
it's kind of fun doing flight planning. It's like, oh
I
wow,
agree.
this actually works.
No, I agree. I love it. It's especially fun when you calculate wind correction angle and then you go up and fly it, and the wind is actually what is predicted, which is really rarely the case. But
Yeah.
if it's if it's what's predicted, and you're supposed to fly a 280 bearing, but your heading is like 246 or well, that's a little extreme, but like 270 based off wind correction, and you fly 270, but you're actually on track. It's just cool when that happens.
Yeah.
But don't be cautious of the wind correction angles.
Yeah.
Do you know how to?
It's kind of.
Do you know how to set
Sorry?
all that up and do a nav log and write all that out?
I do it on pen and paper.
Good. Yeah, good. As you should.
Yeah, because like I don't want to like if I just do it on full flight, and then if I let's say do the check ride, like where'd you get it from? Full flight. Yeah, I'm gonna get 5 minutes. You got 5 minutes to figure it out. I'm gonna get coffee.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's good. There's no wrong. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with doing it the old-fashioned manual way for your check ride, just to prove that you can do it.
Yeah, I'm just using full flight. It's like, oh, okay, where
Yeah.
the hell is it? And then I just want the layout.
Right.
Just for like simple stuff. It just if I have to do the flight log, I'll just do the ASA and print out copies and show it to my instructors.
There you go. Yep, good. Use the
And-
E6B website. Get your if you haven't been to the E6B website, you should go there.
60. Okay.
Yep, and then
I have the actual like the physical
yep,
measurement tool.
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
that's good.
But the annoying, I only got it for like the written test. But when I actually took the written test, like none of the question had it. Like, oh come
No,
on,
I
I
know.
practiced for this.
I know.
Yeah.
You're
I
likely,
even bought the calculator.
Yeah, use the
They still
calculator.
make us use them in the army just
Do
to
they?
prove that you can do it.
Really? I
Yeah.
fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Oh my.
E6B.
Oh.
But they are cool. I mean, they're kind of. It's a cool tool. But they still make you use it. That's wild. That's
Yeah,
wild.
it's usually like right at the beginning of your
Right at the
training,
beginning,
just like,
yeah.
all right, show me how you do a fuel burn calculation with your E6B,
Right.
and then you sit there for a few minutes scratching your head or whatever. It's like 860 an hour. All right, good enough. Let's keep going.
That's awesome. 860 pounds.
Yeah, that's a light burn rate for UH-60.
Wow. 860 pounds an hour.
Wait, like just not no one, just two pilots.
Yeah, so that would probably be. I'd probably be about a 16,000 pound aircraft with a crew of 4, 860. Yeah, that's on the light side.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much does Jet A weigh?
6.7 pounds per gallon.
Mm. Yeah, that's wild.
We typically take about 350 gallons per aircraft for like an average refill. I would guess that we would have about a 30-minute reserve at that point in time. Shit, let me get the calculator out here real quick.
That's crazy. That's
But
like the
I know
size
that
of a
doing like
small
cross
pool.
countries before, we would typically take somewhere between like 320, 350 gallons, something along those lines.
Oh, you didn't top off like the tanks.
So we typically do, but we'll talk with like the FBO, and they're gonna ask like how many gallons do you want? It's like I don't know, about this much, and if we
Yeah.
get close enough, we're pretty good.
Pretty
Let me
accurate,
see. So 350 times 6.7. Yeah, so that's going to be the maximum amount that we can take just about there. So 2,345. Yeah. So if we were more practical, I guess I would say 320 times 6.7. Give me a sec here.
Damn.
Yeah, so that would 2144. Yeah, we'd probably be on our 20-minute reserve at that point in time if we were taking on 320 gallons. But I mean
That's more fuel than the helicopter weighs. 22.
Just
Okay.
with two, like a pilot and co-pilot.
Yeah. Seriously.
It's like Blackhawks is always there's must be a two-person. There's
man,
always a two-person, right?
Yeah.
my computer issues sorted out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we're taking on about 2,100 pounds of fuel. Yeah, about maybe 300 pounds remaining. About 20-minute reserve on a light burn of an aircraft.
It's wild. It's an immense amount of fuel.
Oh.
It's the size of like a child's kiddie pool.
Mhm.
You know, two of those or something. It was like 150 gallons.
Yeah.
You know.
Once you fill it, and then you see the bill, like
Yeah.
yeah.
It's insane. Guys, I'm gonna get going. I'm taking a United flight to Montana. I'm gonna hang out with my brother this weekend. I'm leaving here shortly. So, great
Nice.
study group, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, terrific.
Same-
I'm gonna
same-
set up the next one, and
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about.
Bye.
Yep, we're gonna talk
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
navigation.
Good talking
you.
and hanging
Yeah.
out with you guys.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate. Yeah, this is a good
Awesome
discussion and
presentation
learning.
again.
Yeah,
I like the
thanks, Teal.
presentation.
Appreciate you, brother. Triana,
stuff.
send me some dates, some times next week that'll work for you, because we'd like to have you in on the navigation side too.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take a look at my schedule. I've got some new things going on at work, but man, I'm usually leaving somewhere around like 5 o'clock. Fridays sometimes a little bit earlier,
Okay.
but like today I was just getting home at about 16:30.
Perfect.
So yeah, we'll go over a little bit more like early next week.
Sounds good.
I do have a ground school coming up this Sunday to go over with my improved flight plan
Sweet.
with more waypoints or just
Sweet.
ground identifiers. So,
Yeah, by all means, feel
It's just
free
fun.
to
I like
present.
this. I like it. Flight plans like, oh yeah, just do some work. It's like, oh, this is fun.
It is fun. I know. Aviation is fun. Flight planning is one of the fun parts. I agree. I like it. And
Oh, yeah.
I failed my navigation part of my private check ride, so I like it. And I was like super stoked on my flight plan and everything, and I still screwed it up. It was.
I think
nerves,
the only
but
one I
yeah.
struggle with is like probably weather parts of weather theory is like, okay.
Yeah. Weather. We'll have to have a discussion on that one soon too.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. I'm gonna
Me
get going.
too.
Triana, let's keep in touch
Thank
for a
you.
time next week.
Thank you,
Yeah.
John.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely, brother.
You guys are the best.
See y'all later.
Talk to you later.